All right, welcome to a truncated edition of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Guys, we've only got 3 games up this week. Galax, if you recall, is on vacation right now.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a vacation, but sure.
It sounded like something vacation-y.
I mean, family member's wake.
Uh, was that what he's there for? I thought it was like spending time away from his usual digs. Like,
I'm pretty sure this is for, I believe, the grandfather that recently died. Regardless, we'll learn about it on Wednesday.
right, right. Like, I just remember Galax being a bit vague about what he was doing.
Mm.
Like, um, but point is, Galax is away this week, so just the 3 games, 2 reviews, 1 impressions. First of which is Punk Wars. Right. Punk Wars. Our civilization has fallen. From the ashes, 4 new powers emerge. Immerse yourself in a combat-heavy twist on classic turn-based 4X strategy where steam, steel, atom, and diesel punk corporations clash to spread their technology and their way of life. Right. So that's a pretty good descriptor of Punk Wars. Gotta admit, it's not what I was thinking of when I first heard the title. I was thinking something a bit more actiony. And not a 4X strategy game. So at the very least, the premise is interesting, as you take control of, one of the punks. Well, 3 of them. They just kind of cheated with the Steel Empire. Like, mainly because I don't think I've ever heard of a thing called steel punk. I'm like, if that exists, they didn't call it such a thing in the game, but we're working on semantics right now. The point is, you play as either them, steampunk, diesel punk, or atomic punk, if you will. Which are all, I hesitate to use the word real, because steampunk is about as far away from real as you can get. Like that's kind of the appeal. At least I think it is. Diesel and atomic punk have greater roots in reality, but are still fantastical things. Now, admittedly, I did not explore all 4 factions in depth, because this is a turn-based 4X strategy game. If you've never played one of these, they can be quite long. And I don't think I need to serve an intro into the genre, especially since we've covered them before. Not a great deal, but they've appeared very occasionally on the program. So what makes this one different, aside from the punk aesthetics, is not so much what's in the game, but what's not in the game. Curious choices that made for, quite frankly, a worse effort. So the first thing is, there's no capital. Like, there's no home city. Anything that designates as your first and primary location. Now, why is that important? Let's see. So, instead of having that, or like cities in general, closest equivalent to a capital atoll are the watchtowers, which is where your basic builder and scout units are manufactured, recruited, I guess. You can replicate the watchtowers with greater ease than, a second capital would be. Granted, there are contingencies on that scenario depending on the 4X game. Like there are some that, conquering the capital of your rival's empire is how you get the entire thing to fall down. Others, you conquer that, well, they just assign a new city as a capital. This operates on that principle in that, you take down a watchtower, you have to take down all the watchtowers in order to conquer a civilization. Also, you're going to encounter a lot more watchtowers than, capital building, let's say, because you need to put down a new watchtower in order to actually expand your empire. And you can only do expansion adjacent to your home, or there's got to be like a ruined tower that you can take over. And the other thing about these things, and really pretty much all buildings that you can attack, not all of them are attackable, is they've got a lot of hit points. Like you don't just attack and you'll take over. Once again, some 4X games do this. Some have alternative ways. Like, this is what your spies, saboteurs, sneaky units are for. This game has spies, but they're not utilized in the conquering dynamic. They're strictly sabotage. Your units are also upgradable, as also seen in some 4X games. The further along the line you get on the tech tree, the more their abilities will open up. And the closest you think you get to subterfuge, i.e. being able to take over a city using a spy unit, is like the top demolition attribute. That is to say, a level 4 spy might be able to destroy city units. Also, curiously, this game seems to lack air units. Like, we're not completely without land units, but the only land units I saw were belonging to the Wastelanders.
You mean air units?
Oh, air units, certainly. I did see a review on Steam that took issue with this. I'll be honest, I didn't have a problem with there not being land units. But I can see people not, being pissed off that there aren't any land units. because those would have their own stratagem attached. But anyway, the Wastelanders, they're your barbarian, to speak in Civilization terms. You know, the wild card attack everybody units. At any rate, what this adds up to is that combat-heavy 4X game, which sounds appealing on paper, but in actual practice, it gets to be a slog. Mainly because there's no quick way to take down a civilization. So when you have a civilization on the ropes, you have to still take it down. No matter how prime target, which will conquer, or like there's no easy way to declare victory like there is in Civilization or Age of Wonder. So you're just going to be spending dozens of turns playing cleanup, which is not very exciting. And I think they knew this. This is why the campaign mode throws in story events. Because that's the only explanation for what happened in my campaign. Like, it was right out of a bad, pissed off dungeon master. Moves of bullshit. True story. Because I have I was playing the Steampunk Empire, and I had the Steel Empire on the ropes. Like, they're down to like one watchtower, I think, and a couple of bases. Like, they still have some manufacturing capacity, but it's looking like I have victory. And all of a sudden, a fucking rebellion hits. Like, now I have to deal with these steam rebels. Swear to God, this is exactly what a pissed off DM who, their campaign isn't going the way that they want to would do. Maybe not exactly, but it's like anyone who's played a game of D&D or any pen and paper role-playing game knows this thing. Like, I'm sorry the dice rolls didn't work in your favor. Like, anyway, that was about the point where I stopped playing. Because, like, story move or not, bullshit move is a bullshit move. But outside of that, I'd say the other big problem is, at least on the campaign mode, not a randomized map, but this game likes choke points, because my civilization and the other two civilizations were off in corners with long, narrow paths. So that meant things could get choke pointy pretty quickly. And they did, because, the other civilizations aren't going to lay idle. They'll occasionally send troops out of their own. So every so often you're going to be fighting like a 2-front or 3-front war, kind of, because also the other civilizations will fight each other, which is pretty standard practice. Really, all in all, this is a fairly typical 4X game in most respects. and the respects that it doesn't play within the mold are either honestly aesthetical, and that's the whole punk motif, or ideas that and for the record, I have seen the pendulum swing to the other side, i.e., spy or conversion units being way too powerful. Anyone who's played the first Age of Empires or Call to Power will know this. But yeah, all in all, slightly under par as far as a 4X game goes. I'd say just go play Civilization 6 or Age of Wonders 3 or, the brand new ones. I haven't played Age of Wonders 4 or Civilization 7, so I can't speak to those. It's unfortunate, but I'd ultimately have to call this a swing and a miss. In terms of pricing, $19.99, which in terms of 4X, that's a very good price. But once again, I would be wary. And there is DLC, Punk Wars: The Threat from Within, which was not sent to us. So I can't speak to the quality of what's in here, which is apparently 2 new game modes. A survival mode and a full-on solo campaign. Oh well. Anyway, Petty, you've been playing the prologue, so anything additional you wish to add to
I'm not a big fan of the only way to get to the end turns button is to cycle through all your buildings. I wish there were two separate buttons over here, one just let me end my turn and just asked me if I wanted to skip.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because I almost forgot. Because there are 2 ways to do that. There's you have to skip over every unit, or you have to put them to sleep. It's an actual thing you select on the units or the building. If you put them to sleep, they'll be auto-skipped until you select them. So
that's dumb.
Yes, it is. That's kind of my point of this. That's the entire game here. It's like, it's mostly standard, but when it tried new things, it ended up being really fucking stupid.
Oh, also you have to have your units on the tile you want to build something.
That's not unusual.
I know it's not unusual, I just don't like it.
Okay, yeah, that's more a general critique, because that's any 4X game, honestly. And there's usually conditions, like, you can't build on every tile, but once again, I'm not going to fault them for that, since, once again, that's inherent to the genre. Anyway, anything else?
Not really.
All right, so yeah, that'll about do it for Punk Wars. I do wish this had turned out better, but sometimes the devil's in the details. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this game. Be sure to tune in after the break as Petty Fan delivers impressions to Fur and Fables.